Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're continuing that look at the 1943 Batman serial. And joining me to continue that look is the man himself, the owner-publisher, I would say, of Gotham City 14 Miles. That's fair to say. You're the owner-publisher, right, Mr. Jim Beard?
I own it, and I didn't publish it as far as I'm not the publisher, but yes. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, let's just go with that. And for those who may not get the reference, that's also to the Green Hornet, the 1966 series that Jim and I reviewed on the Hornet Sting podcast.
Yay!
Yay! Speaking of which, can I take a moment here to just ask you what your thoughts are on that? Because there is this new Quentin Tarantino film out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that sort of reimagines the night that Jessica Tate and Jay Sebring and others were murdered by some of Charlie Manson's followers. Right. And puts it in a more, she's saved sort of spin. And what he does is he extends that spin to some other things too, including a scene in which Bruce Lee is portrayed as a complete asshole and gets his butt kicked by a stuntman. And to me, I found it, I know it's supposed to be a spin. I know it's supposed to be another take. I'm like, what purpose does it serve to have him this way? It doesn't work for me at all. In the entire thing. You'd almost want to think that the director had a like some sort of personal grudge, right,
or something. So many directors do that. They play out their own fantasies, in the form of their movies. Maybe in a good way. He, brought some justice to the whole Manson, murder case,
right?
To sort of turn it around. I had to have the plot told to me yesterday by a friend because I didn't see the movie, but I wanted to know, how the heck they handled that, especially Sharon Tate,
right?
Because I thought, wow, her husband is still alive, Roma Polanski, and she is a fairly beloved figure. Now, and I was assured that she was handled very well.
Yes, she is.
And shown to be a beautiful person. I guess Margot Robbie, did a great job with it, and that it's done respectfully.
Oh, yeah, no. In that case, it is.
And I don't know, you could get into a big, huge argument about alternate history and whether or not, that in itself, no matter how it's changed, it is respectful. So, there's a lot of emotion and things that go on into that case today. It's become the stuff of legend, which worries me in some ways because I think in a lot of ways the Manson case has been glorified by lots of different productions and different people over the years, and that we forget the heinous way these people were murdered.
Yes.
So there's that whole question of that. And as far as Bruce Lee goes, I think his family does probably have a legitimate beef, here about how he portrayed. Everything that I've seen of him or like being interviewed or whatever, he actually seemed like a nice guy. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know, could he be an asshole? I don't know. Could he get full of himself? I don't really know. I don't know enough about him to say. But it is interesting that it takes place supposedly during the filming of Green Hornet. And I think in some ways it took some of the stuff from between him and Burt Ward and sort of grafted it into this character from the movie.
Some of it, yeah, and they also bring up the fact, and I say the fact, I'm not even sure if this is true, but Sharon Tate had been in that Matt Helm movie with Dean Martin, and she has a scene where she has to do some gung fu moves and such, and it's Bruce Lee who teaches her the moves.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Here's the thing. I still say go see it. There is a lot to be charmed by it. It's just the Bruce Lee scene and the alternate ending. And I get the alternate ending. I just feel that the way Tarantino handled it, I thought there were better ways of going about it and getting the justice you felt you wanted to give this than the way he handled it. I'll also say see it as a Batman fan because there are nice little touches throughout the movie that are Batman related, and you have to stay through the credits for something very specific Batman related.
Right, I heard that's what I specifically asked my friend about that, and he told me.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good, and I would see it again. I would see it again. I have a great deal of respect for Tarantino. I just think he made a few missteps with this movie. Yeah.
Time will tell. Right?
Time will tell. Exactly. Well, let's get into what we've gathered here for talking about the third installment in the 1943 Batman serial. The Mark of the Zombies is the title. Now, before we do, though, I want to take another moment to focus on one of the stars of the serial here. So far, we've covered Batman and Robin. This time around, we're going to take a look at the bad guy, Dr. Daka himself, played by J. Carrol Naish. This guy has a really interesting life. I think I found as I'm going through, I'm like adding more and more things, and so many things also connect to me in some way, which is also weird. First and foremost, he's the son of an Irishman. Yeah. His father came out from Ireland and settled in California. Daka. Naish himself was born in 1896. He passed away in 1973 from emphysema. His whole movie career started with an uncredited role in the movie What Price Glory. Got him noticed by producers, and he went on to appear in over 200 movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, quite prolific, and lots of cheapies, and you know, and lots of other things too. Is J. Carrol Naish his real name?
From what I was able to find, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think it's pronounced Nash? You look at it with that I in there, and you might almost think that it's Naish, but I suppose I think everybody says Nash.
What I think happened was that here in America, it probably became Nash, but I wouldn't be surprised for the Gaelic, the Irish, it's Naish.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He hits my world again because he's in a Universal horror, Universal Monsters movie.
Yes.
House of Frankenstein.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, yes. Mm-hmm. He's the Hunchback, actually.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. Throughout his career, he often played the heavy or the assistant to that. Like, he was always on the bad guy's side in some way in these movies. And what's interesting is Daka isn't his only offensive role. He kind of had the moniker the one-man UN.
Oh, is that right? Yep. That's funny.
Yeah.
So he was known for playing other nationalities, I guess.
Other nationalities. He went the gamut. A lot of Far East, but also he did Native American. He did he also did like Italian. He was the star of Life with Luigi, the radio show.
From America, Christopher Columbus described his adventures to Queen Isabella in Spain. From Chicago, Luigi Basco describes his adventures to Mama Basco in Italy.
Dear Mamma Mia, I make a promise to write you, so I write. In the United States, one fella keep promise to write is called promissory note. In 6 months since I've been in America, my writing is already so good, words don't even have Italian accent.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I listened to him on Sirius XM's Radio Classics, and he does quite a stereotypical Italian accent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's such an odd show, and I remember when I first came across that, it's like, what? J. Carrol Naish had a comedy radio series where he's this little Italian, loser guy. Mm-hmm. It's so weird,
He not only played him, though, in radio, he went on for the television show as well.
Oh, is that right? Okay, now I guess I didn't know it went on to a television show.
Yeah, I think it was only one season, but...
Alan Reed plays his foil.
Yes.
The guy that's always after him to marry his daughter.
Yep.
And he's trying to constantly trick him into marrying his daughter. So does Alan Reed go into the TV series?
I didn't even check to see if he did or not.
God, now come on.
I'm sorry. I'll look that up and I'll make a note of it at the end of the episode.
I mean, this is a Flintstones podcast and you don't even know.
Flintstones podcast coming 2028.
Yeah. Yeah, you put that on your list there, buddy.
There you go. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, he plays all these different... And I can't find the movie. I just found the reference, but I can't find the movie. He played an African American.
Oh, that's sort of surprising and not sort of surprising.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well...
And you said he goes, through these like really schlocky movies as well and such. But then he was in What Price Glory. He had 2 Oscar nominations for Best Supporting Actor. His second one for playing a Hispanic father in A Medal for Benny.
Jeez. So funny. I'm a bit justified. In past episodes of this podcast, I've said that he seems to be doing Peter Lorre as Mr. Moto, as Daka.
Yes.
And I actually was just this morning looking at other people's reviews of this serial, and I came across a website where somebody was going chapter by chapter. And what did they say? J. Carrol Naish seems to be doing Peter Lorre as Mr. Moto. I felt very justified. But the funny thing is that they said, but in a karaoke sort of way. and it took me a moment. I thought, yeah, that's kind of accurate. So funny.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Near and dear to my heart, he also, in addition to movies... He also appeared, as I said, on television. He did Life with Luigi. He did other television shows. He appeared in Man from U.N.C.L.E., Get Smart, Wagon Train. He did a whole season of a show called Westward Ho, where he played the character Hawkeye.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. And he was also a theater actor as well. He played Alfieri, the lawyer, in the Broadway production of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge.
So many of these, guys back then, were, that were ready to do anything at any time, whether they were up on stage on Broadway or, a big feature film or a cheapy movie serial.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the real irony of the whole thing. So this guy appears in over 200 movies. He gets a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, not for his movies, but for his television contributions.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Very interesting career. I mean, suddenly he becomes more than a one-note character in this serial to me now.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's talk about the installment itself. The third is, as he said, is called The Mark of the Zombies.
Daka and his New Order conspirators have lost their secret and powerful radium gun. As they attempt to recover it, Batman interferes.
Because we've got our zombified characters here that Dr. Daka makes into his willing or unwilling. Well, they're willing by the time he gets through with them servants, to the point where they're willing to throw themselves to their deaths, which I'm told is an impossibility. That when you control someone, you can't get them to go that far and go against their natural instincts.
Well, so we're told. Yeah, I don't know whether that's, just legend or not, but
right.
Yes, you'd want to believe that that's the case, yes.
Yes. Now, we get the recap as Batman has crashed through and he's going to save Linda in the House of the Open Door, in that little side room they've got and everything there. And it's weird, though. I don't know if it happened also at the end of part 2 when they were doing the whole thing, but in the course of the recap fight, we get this quick cut to Alfred just sort of looking, out the window of the car. He's sitting in the car waiting for them. And then they cut back, and of course we get to the whole action with Batman getting caught on the wire, that he's walking across with Linda's. He's trying to escape, and our bad guys, doing the whole thing with the death trap. But I thought it was weird because I'm like, why did they insert him there? And a lot of times, these cliffhangers are always at the last moment something happens. And I thought maybe Alfred was going to have a hand in saving Batman.
What strikes me is that this episode is very pulpy, which is a good thing, but it's also sort of a detriment in a way.
Well, no one tried this door.
Oh, I know it. They got away with the cable.
Well, Daka will be pleased when you report that to him.
I did my best. Anyway, I'm not afraid of him or any other squint eye. As soon as the gas clears, I better get rid of that equipment in there. The Batman will probably tell the police about this place.
It's a good thing for people who like that sort of thing because it is just straight on, movie serial, pulpy, goodness or whatever. But then, in a way, it sort of hurts it because it's so much that and so little actual Batman.
Yeah.
That, they were so concerned with hitting all of the movie serial, the checklist of what you have to have, that really it sacrifices things that really made the comic book character and his world very unique. So for someone like me who likes both, it's hard to watch because you keep going, that's really great. They hit that number and they hit that number for what a movie serial probably should be, but then they just keep missing all of these beats to make it Batman.
I agree with you totally. And I've got to say, in all honesty here, I've cheated a little and have gone ahead and watched a few of the other episodes coming up. Yeah. And there are moments, though, where you stop and you go, okay, that's Batman. I get it. Yeah. But it's moments.
Sure.
It's moments.
Sure. It was probably written quickly. Mm-hmm. It's a programmer. They probably imagine that the kids going to see it probably wouldn't care. And if they did care, they're going to walk out of the theater and maybe they're even going to go see something else or start doing something else. And maybe it doesn't care. It was just like a quick entertainment kind of a thing. And they needed to get it made and make a couple of bucks off of it. For us, all these years later, hungry for something with Batman and saying, wow, this is the first time Batman is on film, and you just really want it to be Batman, and oftentimes it's not. I'm amused again by this. Batman and Robin are not very effective.
Well, no.
They don't they kind of they seem to be more impulsive than anything, and there isn't a lot of forethought to what they're doing, and if there is, then it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But again, it's a serial. It just needs to keep moving ahead, just like a pulp novel. And sometimes logic be damned, as long as you can get a good visual, a fight or a car chase or something like that, out of it. That's all that's important here. I really doubt if the kids sat outside the theater and compared notes, and said, why did Batman do that when he really should have done that? I doubt if they did that. They didn't dissect it like we are today.
Well, they didn't dissect it like we are today, and they didn't have 80 years of Batman.
Yeah, right.
Right. At that point, 5 years? 43? What is that? What was it?
39 to 43, 4 years.
4 years. So they've only had 4 years of Batman under their belt. And while, we're getting a pretty good idea, even in 4 years, who Batman is, things have changed because you've added Robin and such. But I could see, like, I could just see the kids coming out and going, did you see when Batman socked him here? Like that, they're focusing on the positive because it's just thrilling to see.
Oh, sure.
Like, I mean, let's put it this way. I can think about when in the 70s when I saw Spider-Man. Now looking at Spider-Man television show from the 1970s with Nicholas Hammond, it's like, oh my God, they really just totally ruined it in many ways. And yet it'll always have a special place in my heart. But back then, that was Spider-Man. It's like, we're getting Spider-Man. Okay, you know. Yeah. I took it. I accepted it for what it was. I mean, when you look at it now, it's like they didn't put it. I mean, Stan Lee has always said, out of all the iterations of Spider-Man in any other media, he hated the Nicholas Hammond show.
Yeah, totally. And I said at the beginning when we started this podcast, I was going to try not to, totally rip it apart from the 2019 point of view and try to put myself in the mindset. No, the kids, if anything, when they walked out of the theater, they started reenacting the fights.
Yes.
And throwing each other around and punching and stuff like that. I'm sure, but whether or not they actually had Batman lose as much as he does in this serial, that's a good question. But yeah, right. That would have been, what they were doing at that time. You know what? He had a costume that looked like Batman's costume and Robin, and they fought bad guys, and he was Bruce Wayne, and that's probably all, that mattered. It would have had to have been something pretty outrageous I'm sure, for some kid at that point to say, oh my goodness, that's nothing like the comic books.
Right.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe a couple kids ran, to the drugstore next to the theater or across the street from the theater and bought a Batman comic book.
Right.
It probably helped, a little bit in sales, or who knows? There may be even a kid who wasn't even familiar with Batman, and then runs over to the drugstore and plunks down his nickel and gets a Batman comic.
Well, isn't that the way anytime we do this, with whether it was like Spider-Man, like I say, in the 70s,
Sure.
Hell, the Marvel Universe now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And you know what? And real quick, echoing on what you're saying about Spider-Man, that's absolutely true. And I've said this to a lot of people. We put up with a lot of stuff back in the day because we were hungry for superheroes on film. The comics wasn't enough. Anything that we could get. It's not like today where you can't turn around without running into a superhero movie or superhero TV show, and you almost kind of, it almost becomes commonplace. But, we were starved for stuff like that. That's why we put up with things like those DC superheroes specials.
Yes, the legends.
Because it was a chance to see somebody walking around in a costume from a character that you knew from a comic book. And a lot of times, like in those things, for the very first time, who we had never seen anybody dress up like Hawkman before, or the Huntress, or Spider-Man in the Nicholas Hammond show. We'd only have the animated cartoon, so we took what we got because that's all there was.
Yep, exactly. And by the way, I get it. Speaking of logic, because you said sometimes logic and such. What did you think of the way they get out of the cliffhanger with Robin basically throwing the line because Batman loses his footing and stuff. He falls. So Robin's able to sort of, because they do have a quote unquote bat rope in place still.
Yeah.
He swings it. And here's Batman with one arm holding Linda over his shoulder, grabs the rope. It's so fast. But basically that's what he does. He grabs it with one hand and then, steadies himself and lowers himself down to the ground.
Well, I'm going to say something here. As much as me, bitching about this and that, but in a way that was a sort of a comic booky thing and a Batman thing with ropes and stuff like that.
Right.
I actually sort of liked that resolution to this. Some of these cliffhanger resolutions are just lame, or they're just standard serial cliffhanger resolutions that aren't really specifically Batman resolutions, whereas this one you could almost say this was much more in line with what we would want from Batman.
Well, that's always interesting because I remember we did that. I don't know if it was you or with Robert Long. Maybe it was Robert Long. It was the King Tut episode with. Oh, no, maybe it was you. That Bruce gets pulled out.
Too many co-hosts.
Bruce gets pulled out of the ambulance after he's been kidnapped.
Right.
I believe that's never Headmaster Robin. It's them, all right. First, I'll give that wagon a little touch of bat ray. Good shot, Master Robin. Thanks, Alfred. Now for the superpower bat magnet. With any luck, we'll latch onto the metal buckles of that straitjacket.
Oh, I did like that, though. I was fine with it's funny. Looking at some of the commentary and criticisms for this episode, some people were like, "Oh, Bruce should have been badly injured falling out of a car like that." I don't know. I was like, he's Batman. He's trained in a lot of fighting skills and stuff. And when he got up and said, I just rolled with it, I was like, okay, I'm fine with that.
I bought into it. I mean, it's basically just ridiculous. You're in comic book logic, so roll with it.
Well, that's always something I also find, too, is how, and I mean, I do it sometimes myself here when it comes to the show, is how we actually try to apply real-world logic to this show when there are so many absurd things, and yet, we're willing to accept Batman will shoot a wire, 3 or 4 stories up in the air, let it drag him all the way up, and then suddenly he's attacked by a creature midway or something, or a villain or whatever, and they're falling, and they're punching each other, and he manages, and we accept all that in the comic books. And we know that we're dealing with an absurd world in the TV show, and yet, oh my God, he should have been hurt when he fell out of the van. It's like, oh, come on. As long as they explain it, and they do, I'm willing. If he just gotten up and just was like, all right, now time to get out of here, I'd be like, well, wait a minute. But he said, I rolled with it. Because even Robin goes, you should have been hurt or something like that. And he's like, no, I'm all right. So, yeah, I was just curious what your thoughts were on that. Now, they head back to Wayne Manor after dropping Linda off. We cut to the gang because now they're getting on each other's nerves because they failed to do what they needed to do and Batman's still alive and everything. And there's this whole argument scene. And again, we get a little racism mixed in because clearly Daka is not a favorite among the men.
No, right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly right, and it's that lead guy who's I don't know the name of anybody in there. The guy with the mustache, the lead guy. I really like his whole attitude towards Daka. Yeah, it's totally like he looks down on Daka. It's really interesting to have a villain, a big main villain like this who. He's not a master, a total mastermind. He doesn't have lackeys who are completely, under his thumb.
Right.
It's really he's a fairly pathetic character at this point. He's not doing that well. He's got guys around him who don't like him and don't believe in what he believes in. And every time he starts his whole thing about the new order and all of that, you can just see those guys groan like, oh, here we go again about this new order crap.
Yeah.
It's just a very interesting way to do a villain in this, and at this time, he's not this, all-powerful, iron-handed guy. He's really just this sort of tiny little, nebbish.
Right.
And how the heck he actually set up this, thing that he's got going on, I don't know, because it looks like it could just crumble at any moment.
It does, and yet he has moments where in his performance and the dialogue he gives him, for a little guy, he's got some great words.
Yes, yeah, I agree. You know what? And that's totally J. Carrol Naish.
Yes.
You know, he's this little force within this weird character that there's something compulsive about that you really want to, keep watching him. And I told you before, we've said this before, when he does go into his little thing about the new order, it's so funny because he changes, because he's going on and kind of talking so much normal, but then he gets that faraway look in his eyes, and then he sort of snaps to attention, as if he's speaking to the emperor
himself,
directly. When he, and then he kind of comes out of it and keeps going, on, with it. I like how some of the guys are sort of like, oh no, we have to tell Daka that we failed, and that lead guy's like, I'll tell him myself, kind of I'm not afraid of him, jerk.
By the way,
that little yellow jerk.
Yeah. His name is, because I actually did make a note of it for the 4th episode, because after a while I kept getting tired of writing the lead guy, and they did actually say his name in the 4th episode, Foster.
Oh, okay. His name is that his last name or his first name?
Last name, I think.
Okay, so Mr. Foster. Okay, all right, good.
And then we cut to this scene with Daka.
You're a stupid bungling fool to let that girl escape.
But as I explained, the Batman interfered.
Silence! Now I'm sick and tired of that alibi. The Batman is a rank amateur. He cannot measure up to any one of you. Get rid of him.
That's easier said than done.
Silence! Now, Mr. Warren, do you still refuse to become a member of the League of the New Order?
I do.
Oh, that is too bad. Then the responsibility is yours. Take him to the laboratory. Patton Jones, the door.
He's led to the laboratory.
Resistance is useless, Warren. I suggest that you adopt an attitude of fatalistic resignation.
You underestimate the American will to fight, Daka. We fight best on the face of your so-called inevitable.
Oh, you do? Well, we shall see about that. Proceed, gentlemen.
I love the line from Daka about fatalistic resignation.
Yes. If anybody gets good lines in this thing, it's him.
Preston the bell.
It's certainly not Batman.
No.
So far, Bruce and Batman have not really said anything that's profound or stirring. Okay, not profound. Let's just lay that right on the line. It's a kid's movie.
One more chance, Mr. Warren?
No.
Oh, too bad. So sorry.
But more like stirring. Like it may be coming, but where's like his patriotic statement at this time? Was the time to make a patriotic statement. We get it from Warren, if anything. But again, it's like, I guess in a way he's doing a good job as Bruce, as this sort of layabout, but Batman's almost no different. And here, I know I'm saying this because obviously Adam West's Bruce and Batman are barely different characters.
That is all, gentlemen.
But still, it's, Batman is sort of languid. I know I was just saying how impulsive they are, but I'm waiting for a little bit more out of Batman.
Right. I don't know if we're going to see it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't know.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
That, gentlemen, is what happens to the American will to fight. Follow me, Warren.
And Warren then is finally turned into a zombie since he will not cooperate.
Yeah, he gets the little box
on his head.
Yeah, whatever that is.
The early diving helmet.
Yeah.
We cut back to Wayne Manor, where Alfred informs Bruce that the police raided the house of the open door, but found nothing. Now, I got to add one thing here. I forgot to mention, because we talked about how each of Daka's members, they go through the what do you call that? I wouldn't call it like a horror ride, and it's all the scenes of the Japanese and such like that. Yeah.
And you know what? Talk about like how many times do we have to see that?
I know.
He's in a little, a horror show ride, and it's just so funny how And that's it, padding, I guess, in a way. Sometimes
some ways.
these chapters have to be padded, to stretch this out into however many chapters it is. But it's just funny to me. I think what it is that because they actually spent a little money on building that set,
right?
And so they want to get their money's worth out of it.
Exactly. They spent more money on that than they did on the Batcave.
Yeah. What I really find funny is it opens right up into the Daka's main room. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, this is me and my, obsessive compulsive mind. It's like that makes me nervous that it opens right up into the main room. You'd think it would open up into a little antechamber, or anteroom. Yeah, first, and then you go, but it's like, I don't know. What if that door opened and somebody happened to be somewhere out there and they saw it and they go, look, there's some kind of super villain's lair in there.
Well, not only that, it goes right into Daka's area there. And his way of letting his men in, while it might seem cool to the kids to hold up your hand and you've got the ring on, all you got to do, if Batman ever gets his hands on a ring, is show up there. And once he's in, that's, and it's like, you're immediately in.
Yeah. But I do, it is a cool little thing. I like that. They have to look. They have to hold their hand up to that thing, and then he looks at that panel and looks for the, the ring or whatever. I think that's actually a fun little, a clever thing for 1943.
Yeah. Now, and the Neanderthal is always there too.
Is that what that is?
I'm guessing it's a Neanderthal. I mean, the one at the end who, if you don't have the proper identification, he attacks you. I guess.
I guess that's what that's supposed to be.
In fact, actually, Foster shows up there. We get, like you said, another extended scene of him. And not only that, it's not just the ride. We also got to see him coming up to the entrance and having our Barker tell him, get in there and all.
Right.
We got to go through the whole... It's almost like every episode of The Green Hornet where it's like, we got to do Hornet Sting and all.
Yes, that's a really good... example, comparison, yes.
Foster shows up to tell Daka that a supply train with new radium is making its way to Gotham. So Daka plans to blow up the bridge so they can get it. They read then this ad, and this is something else too. You talk about not doing so great or whatever. This is, I don't know. They read an ad that the gun was found or, something sounding like it and such.
Yeah.
And with information on how it can be retrieved.
Yeah, doesn't it? It says something like a strange looking gun was found or something.
Yeah.
You think the police would be interested in that?
Right. You would think, but no. And you would think Daka might figure that out, but no. Yeah. So they make an appointment to meet with this person who found it at 10 o'clock to get it. And it's done, in a neutral location at a building. I don't think they ever identify it and say it's like a Wayne building or something. Do they?
I don't know if there is such a... Well, there wasn't anything like that in the comics at that time.
At that time.
Yeah, and I don't think that early on was there Wayne Foundation or anything like that at all. We just knew that Bruce was rich and he had a manor, and that was about it. I don't think they ever really showed him doing much of anything other than just being an idle playboy.
Right.
This whole thing is very significant as far as I'm concerned. If we're talking about the '60s Batman show, Alfred in disguise, playing a role to help Batman catch crooks.
Yep.
This is something that is repeated how many times in the '60s show with Alan Napier, taking on a role. Except, of course, his Alfred was a little bit more eager to do that. He was always asking, how he could help. our beloved Alfred from the serial is a little bit more of a nervous Nelly, which is amusing. And, you know, he gets a lot of really amusing things to do in this sequence. But I was really struck by, you know, little disguise, you know, and it really, really reminded me, and, you know, almost like as if there was some sort of inspiration taken from this to our Alfred in the 60s show.
It's possible, yeah. I did like the whole thing at the skies and everything. And we've got like Robin. Well, first of all, he's knocked out at one point because he sees one of Daka's men approaching the building. But he does come around in time to help out as well. We got Batman waiting on the ledge outside. And what I love is there's Alfred.
Come in.
How do you do? Did you have an ad in the Lost and Found column?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm the owner of that article.
Oh, you are, eh? A most unique object indeed. Now, if you can describe it to me, and are willing to pay a suitable reward...
We'll just skip the description and the reward. Hand it over.
Oh, that's a pistol you're pointing at me, sir.
It sure is, buddy.
I wish you wouldn't do that. It makes me very nervous.
You'll be more than nervous in a minute if you don't hand over that radium gun.
Well, you see, it's like this. I haven't it with me.
Come in, boys. Search the place.
You know, and he's playing it perfectly, the nervousness, as he's trying to first say, well, describe this thing to me first. And then outside we got Batman, and he's almost shot by a guy watching on the roof. Daka's smart like that, at least. But Robin stops that guy. And then I love this. There's this fight, and Robin knocks him through the skylight, and it turns out that the office is right below. It's the top floor. So he falls into the office. He follows. Batman enters, and the big fight breaks out.
Big fight breaks out, right. And once again, Batman and Robin don't do that well. You know, they're you know, I'm not going to go so far as to say they're incompetent, but what they are is they're typical serial characters dressed up in Batman and Robin costumes. Robin getting knocked out is another good example. To the script writers, they're not thinking of them as superheroes, or, you know, Batman and Robin. They're thinking of them as standard serial characters who have this endless cycle of getting knocked out, you know, getting punched and then punching somebody. You know, it just kind of goes around and around. They're no more competent or capable than any serial characters, you know, in anywhere, in any other one. Yeah. It's all just to serve the so-called plot, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Batman and Robin never took any lumps in the comic books, you know, at this time, but very little. I mean, they're, you know, you look back at them and they're, you know, they win fights.
How many did I kill?
7.
But there were only 4 of the ruffians.
You killed 3 of them twice.
Where are the bodies?
We threw them out the window.
Why don't you let me know they were coming?
I only saw one of them, and I followed him. It was a plan to draw me away from the entrance of the building, and I fell for it.
Lucky you did. You saved my life on the roof. Let's look for some identification.
Here's something.
A map of the Shoreline Railroad. That circle around the Westgate Bridge. 10 p.m. scribbled in the margin. What time is it?
9:34, sir.
That gives us only 26 minutes to find out what they're up to.
What makes you so sure it means 10 p.m. tonight?
I'm not, but there's nothing like making certain. We haven't time to explain to the police. We'll have to leave by way of the roof.
And you know what? Just last night, I was watching Batman 66. I watched my favorite 3-parter, The Zodiac Crimes, because I felt like it. And in one of those bat fights, they probably, I don't know, not a third of the time, let's say a quarter of the time out of the bat fights, the bad guys got the, you know, best of them.
Right.
You know, but that wasn't, it was a little bit, and I think that was just to make it a little bit more interesting to the viewers to think like, oh, maybe they're going to get overpowered, you know. Right.
Well, a lot of times it was Robin who would be, you know, because then there'd be always, help, Batman, help.
Yeah. Well, he's a child. Yeah. You know, I mean, yeah, I get that. I don't know. It's again, the kids at this time probably never thought of it. It was just another fight in a movie serial.
Right.
We get them all the time. It's just that again, this time it happens to be a guy dressed up in a bat costume and a kid, with a very large domino mask on. And an afro.
And an afro. Now, in the midst of this fight, Alfred finds a gun on the floor, and so he starts shooting, but he's got his eyes closed.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of a sad statement when the most interesting thing going on is what Alfred is doing. I love it when he's trying to call for help on the phone.
Yes.
What does he say? Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard, yes.
Help, I'm being murdered. Yeah, it's kind of sad, when you're much more interested in things that are going on with Alfred, with all this stuff swirling around him than the actual fight itself. Well, you know what it is there's no choreography. I almost will bet you that it was no choreography. There was probably no, okay, you're gonna, you two. Literally, I think they probably just said to all the stunt people or I don't know if they were the actors or if they even had stunt people. They just said, okay, fight. And they start sort of throwing each other around. We get the choreography in the '60s. And
sometimes it's over choreographed.
Yeah, and as rough around the edges as that could get, sometimes there was so much, some thought put into it. The little combos of things that Batman and Robin did, linking arms and as a battering ram. Or, the double punch thing that became one of their signature moves. I loved it when he'd grab Robin by the arm and swing him, and Robin would jump and, kick with his feet. And all those different kinds of things, are the thought that went into it. And there's no choreography whatsoever. There's no attempt to say, hey, wait, actor's name is Lewis Wilson?
Yeah.
Lewis, you have a cape on. It's going to get in your way. Let's do something where it's not going to get in your way. It's just, all right, just start fighting.
Right.
And the camera sits right here, and that's it. And we're going to, film it.
Yep. Yeah, that's... It definitely seems like it's just like go at it, boys, and off they went and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And make sure Batman gets, knocked down half of the time, at least half of the time.
Right.
If not more. 75% would be good.
and watch out for my profile, boys.
Yeah. I don't think there's any worrying about that.
No. Well, the shooting sends Daka's men running, but one of them somehow manages to leave his jacket behind. So they search the pockets and find the map with the train routes, so they know something's up. So Batman and Robin go and surprise our guys on the bridge as they're planting the explosives, and the train is approaching. And again, we get another fight on the tracks. During the course of it, most of Daka's men run off, save for one that Batman thinks he knocked out, but he knocks Batman out and jumps off the train tracks as the train is approaching, and we come to the end of episode 3.
Yeah, it's a good setup.
Yes.
And I give him some credit for, building a train trestle set. Mm-hmm. It seems like a good setup. It's definitely a very pulpy serial, one. So you have high hopes. You cross your fingers and you have high hopes that this, this could come out well.
Yeah. Overall, though, what did you think of this installment?
I liked it as far as it's got a lot of action and things going on and stuff like that. It's just, I can see that they're more concerned with making another chapter of a serial than making a chapter of a Batman serial. But overall, it fed a lot of pulp necessities for me. So, I liked it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I would say, and as I say, there'll be better moments in later episodes of Batman. This one doesn't feel as much like a Batman story.
Yeah, exactly. So. It reminds me of every time we talked about a 60s episode. Even if it wasn't that good overall, there were at least moments that you can point to and say, that was a good moment. So here, I would say, that I liked the use of Alfred in
that. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to turn it around a little bit here. I'm going to say that does serve as a real Batman thing, because I don't know how many other serial setups would have a guy who has a butler who he can bring in to help him on cases. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them that as a somewhat more unique thing that they said, hey, this Batman character, the screenwriters, this Batman character has this butler.
Right.
Let's use him. He's like kind of like another partner in a way, a helper kind of a guy. And then that's what they did. So I'll give them that. How's that? Huh?
That's fair.
Who says this isn't the Marvel age of fair-mindedness? The DC age of fair-mindedness.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that's very fair. Very fair. All right, so then that's going to do it for this installment of the Batcave podcast. We'll call them installments, just like they did back in the movies, serials in those days. Before we go, though, Jim, how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk some more Batman?
Facebook. The page is called the Jim Beard fan page, and I'm on Twitter, and my handle is Writer Jim Beard. That's all one word, Writer Jim Beard. And then if you want to take a look at my books, hit up Amazon and just put in my name, as an author, and you'll see my author page. And I am still working on the new Batman book. There have been some hurdles along the way, but I'll be getting back to it soon, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll have a new Batman book, the episode guide of the 3 episode guides that I'm doing. So season 1 of the 60s show.
Very nice, very nice. And folks, as always, you can find us over at thebatcavepodcast.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So, folks, next time around, we're dealing with the slaves of the rising sun. And that includes our man Warren here, who's now been turned into a zombie.
Yes.
So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Jim, citizens, take care.
Take care.
Is Daka throwing Martin Warren to his horrible pet alligators? And will the Jap spies force Linda to give them the receipt for the vital radium shipment they plan to steal? Don't fail to see Slaves of the Rising Sun, Chapter 4 of Batman at this theater next week.
Alan Reed plays his foil.
Yes.
The guy that's always after him to marry his daughter.
Yep.
And he's trying to constantly trick him into marrying his daughter. So does Alan Reed go into the TV series?
I didn't even check to see if he did or not.
God, now come on.
I'm sorry. I'll look that up and I'll make a note of it at the end of the episode.
And now, Instant Maxwell House Coffee presents Life with Luigi, created by Cy Howard, starring J. Carrol Naish, with Alan Reed and Jody Gilbert.
Dear Mamma Mia.